Okay. So why don't we go around the room and we can talk just how long you've been in business, just so everybody gets to know where you are in being a new agent. Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Okay, go
So
around.
I started in March, right before all the craziness. So I'm semi-retired. This is my retirement job. I'm still working as a consultant for Ortho Clinical 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So I devote Monday and Friday to doing real estate stuff.
Nice.
I can go. So I also just started in March and haven't really done much with it because, you know, everything's kind of on pause. So that's where I'm at.
Got it. Jen?
Hi. I just got licensed with Keller Williams in January, and I spent a few months shadowing Mark Banning, and now I'm doing my building for myself, doing my own. So I'm new at building my own. I got to spend some time learning, which it was really helpful. So it was a good way to get started for me, it felt like.
Nice. Does everybody know Kim?
Yes.
You better. Rick's
Does
like, who? I never met her.
Does everyone know Rick?
Who? Kim who?
Right.
Exactly. Has everyone met Rick?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So,
Yep, I have met everybody. You want me to talk about myself?
you can.
That's boring. Yeah.
Well, how long have
Rick
you
Litzka,
been?
26 years in the business. How long have I been licensed? 26 years.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. Like, go ahead, tell us.
So let's see. I got my real estate license pretty much right out of high school. My father was a home builder. Now my brothers build houses in Webster. So I got right into sales. I did a lot of new builds for about 18 years of the 26. Been to a couple of the different real estate companies. Been with Keller for, it's going to be 3 years at the end of August. And so I've been concentrating mainly on the existing sales for, what was that, 6 years? Six and a half years or so.
Nice.
So yeah, I've seen a lot of changes in the business, and kind of like, you know, Ron and Lisa, when you guys came to the orientation, we talked about, you know, the things that don't change. I mean, the fundamentals are still the same, just the technology and all that kind of stuff has changed. So that's really all that I have. So I have a little bit of knowledge of the business. And then Jeffrey, how long have you been in the business for?
I have been in the business 9 months. So I am
9
a new
months.
agent. It seems like it was just yesterday, to be perfectly honest. And so when Rick talks about those fundamentals, they don't change. Just talking to people, it's amazing to me just of what just talking and connecting with people will do for your business. It seems like it's too easy at times. And then there's other times that I get frustrated. So, which welcome to real estate, right, Rick?
Well, yeah, you know, unfortunately, the frustration in this business, at least for me, is, you know, you do everything that you can do for your client, whether it be a buyer or a seller, and then, you know, you have to hand the baton off to the engineer, to the attorney, to the mortgage person, you know, and then it has to come full circle to you. So there's a lot of parts of it that are out of your control, which used to drive me absolutely berserk. And when something would happen, I would take it very personally. So I've grown out of that. which has been good for my sanity. But, you know, so one of the important things, you know, I still think in this business is communication, whether it be text message or phone calls. So keeping in touch with the mortgage brokers, whether you're representing the, you know, if you're representing the buyer, also the other agent on the other side of the transaction, have an open communication with them. And just being honest, you know. I know, Jeffrey, you had that one deal where things were a lot of finger pointing back and forth, you know.
Just
You know,
recently.
drop the ball on this end, no, it's that end, all that kind of stuff. That's the part, that's the part that's frustrating, you know. So,
Right.
but
And
one thing I can honestly say is that it always comes together. It always works itself out one way or another.
Mhm. Well, I found specifically, and this is what I've never sold houses. So I've always been an admin for a team. And one of the things that I always tell my people is everybody always wants to know, is this going to close, or is this going to go through, or are we sure? And, you know, my response is it's never over until the ink dries at the table. So, but what I always tell people is that if you are working with people where you've got a buyer who really wants to buy and you've got a seller who really wants to sell, it really doesn't matter what the problem is. Like Rick said, it will work itself out. As soon as you remove one of those pieces from the equation and you've got a seller that has the attitude of, I don't really have to sell. Or if the buyer has the attitude of, you know, whatever, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, then generally you'll have issues. But like I said, so long as those two pieces come together, then it works itself out. You might have a lot of gray hair along the way, but it'll work itself out.
yeah, so I'll talk to, so Rick was alluding to a closing that was about 3 weeks behind, and there was a lot of finger pointing back and forth, and it was a struggle right up until the last day. And what I learned from that was I updated my checklist. So in Keller culture, we talk about failing forward. So once it was all done, and I knew that it was finally going to close and we had the clear to close, went back and looked at everything I had done and said, how could I have prevented this or known about this sooner? And I figured out that I should have called, I shouldn't have to, but I'm going to now. I'm going to call the buyer's attorney if I'm on the selling side, which is the case I was, and just double check when the title and everything gets sent over, like, hey, just want to make sure you received it and you've sent it out and we're all good, we're just waiting. Because that was the only conversation that I hadn't had. I was relying on someone else for the information. So it was, and I did it with a listing that is going to close now about 2 weeks early. And I reached out to the buyer's attorney and they were like, oh, thanks for calling. Yeah, no, we're great. Everything's ready. We're just waiting for blah, blah, blah. And I was like, awesome. We were all on the same page and everybody's working really, really easily together. So, you know, even though Rick heard some of my frustrations one night and Kim's heard my frustrations of me literally crying one night because I had just had enough, I figured out that I can hopefully prevent it in the future. And it really just came down to a difficult buyer that was just kind of dragging their feet a little bit on getting some paperwork in. And it really wasn't a big deal, but my clients really felt it was. So it became a big deal.
Right.
So.
Can I add to that? Yeah. Okay, so there's two things, just from my experience from being on the other side of the fence, not the agent side, but the background support side. Hi, Laurie. Two things. One is I have checklists that I have developed for the listing side, and I have checklists that I have developed for the buy side. In Command, you have the ability to change the names of the stages, and then in each stage, you can create a checklist. If anybody would like that stuff, I'm happy to share. I think probably the only way for me to do that is maybe take a snippet or a screenshot of it, and I can email it to you, because you guys actually have to go in and create all of the steps in your own individual commands. So I'm happy to share that with you. The other thing that I've learned over the years, and I know that it used to be kind of forbidden, and I usually do it anyway and ask for forgiveness later, is so when I started in 2001, it used to be that if you were on the seller side, you were only allowed to talk to like the seller's attorney and the sellers, and and if you were on the buy side, you only communicated with your buyer and the buyer's attorney and the mortgage person, and never the twain shall meet. So what I started doing is, because like Jeffrey, I would find out like title wasn't ordered like it was supposed to be, or just the whole he said, she said, blame game, da 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 da. I found that if I got all parties on the same page, that helped to prevent a lot of that stuff from happening. So what I've started doing is, if I'm on the buy side and I want to know if title's been started, I will email the listing agent, I will email the seller's attorney, and I will email the buyer's attorney, and generally I'll blind copy my buyer in. And I will just say, hey, just checking in, I know mortgage commitment's been received, or whatever, where are we at with regards to title, whatever. And I'll do the same thing on the other side, like, hey, if I have the listing, hey, I know mortgage commitment was received 2 days ago, just making sure that you've received title, how close are we to getting the clear to close? And generally, like, I'm having the buyer's attorney and the seller's attorney in the same conversation. So really, it kind of avoids a lot of the blame game, because they can't really respond in that fashion, basically tossing the other attorney under the carpet, because they'll look like an idiot. So, like I said, I have gotten my hand slapped for that, because a lot of times, the attorneys still like to keep their, keep their boundaries, if you will. And certainly, like, if I do cross the boundary and I'm asking a question I shouldn't be asking, like, what are we waiting for? What's the holdup for clear to close? Sometimes I'll get my hand slapped, from the buyer's attorney, like, you're not supposed to know that, da 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 da, whatever. But generally, I just find if you can keep those lines of communication open, your transaction will go a lot smoother. So just, some, notes from experience. I don't know if Rick has anything to add to that, or if he'll yell at me for giving you bad advice, but.
No, I mean, everything you said is good. I mean, it's, keeping the lines of communication open with everyone. I personally, won't talk to the attorney on the other end. From last time I did it, I was pretty much hung up on. So I really don't do that too much anymore, but I just have good relationships being in the business for so long with a lot of these realtors, that when, hopefully I have a question about something and I ask, they provide the information to me. But again, it's a lot of this stuff is out of your control. And I'm finding, and you will find, that when you start working with buyers and sellers, that setting the expectation with them is very, very, very important. Being able to sit down, talk to them on, some of the things that can go wrong in the current market, not to go off on a tangent, but prior to this pause, I had an accepted offer, multiple offer situation. Agent called me to tell me that the offer was accepted. So I let my buyer know. She went and told the other person that they did not get the house. They ended up coming back with an offer that was for $15,000 more. So then she calls me and tells me, oh, well, those people came back. They came up $15,000. Now you don't have the house. Okay. Now, I put my foot in my mouth with that buyer. I also had another situation where it was contracts sent to the attorneys on the weekend. They weren't going to show the house anymore. Deposit check in the mail. And the next day I get a phone call saying that they accepted another offer. So that was in back-to-back weekends. Now you want to talk, and that was $745,000 in production. That right now, with all this pause, and especially for my buyers, you know, it would have been great to have coming up next month. But you know, setting the expectation on what can happen over the weekends and with offers and multiple offer situations, and that you don't get, you know, you don't have the house until you have the keys in your hand, but also the attorney approval, you know, working and talking to the buyers about that. It kind of eased the surprise, if you will, because I did set that expectation, but it's tough. You know, you really try to protect your clients the best you can. And there's still some things after 26 years that pop up that just send you into a tailspin. Excuse me for a sec.
Yeah, Jen?
How does that happen that a listing agent tells you that your offer's been accepted and then it's not? How does that happen?
Right? And
That
then it's
really
not.
can happen though. It
Right.
happened to me twice.
So
So
it happens all the time, especially in this market, unfortunately. And, you know, I was talking to David Dollinger about it. And, you know, what language can be put into the offer to try to, you know, stop this from happening, because, you know, right now it's the Wild West out there. And it's unfortunate. It's, you know, people are just looking to buy houses. They want to purchase a house. But the process of doing that right now with the way that this market is, and I hope it does shift to where it kind of hits an equilibrium a little bit, but it's terrible to what's happening with these buyers. But yeah, I mean, literally deposit in the mail, contract sent to the attorneys, you have the house, and then all of us, and I had written in there, no open house on Sunday, right first refusal in case another offer comes in. I mean, I had everything in there, and the people came up to a number where my people didn't want to meet, and we didn't get the house. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible.
So
I'm
I
dumbfounded.
think that's why, if you remember a few months back, people were shortening up the attorney approval time. Like it used to be that attorney approvals like in 3 days or 5 days or 7 days. And then when this market started getting crazy again, people were putting, you know, a 1-day attorney approval letter to try to get it approved as fast as possible, so that the possibility of somebody coming in with a better offer or whatever, basically the contract would be locked up. And then since the contracts have been rewritten, you know, and what is it now, a mandatory 3 days, I think, for attorney
That's what I was
approval?
taught. 3 days is the minimum.
Yeah. So now that it's mandatory, you know, it's happening, like Rick said, that, you know, a better offer comes along, and
So even though the sellers, I don't mean to dwell on this longer than necessary, but if the sellers signed an acceptance, they still could rescind that and accept a different offer?
Yeah. So what happens? Sorry, I'm holding court, Jeffrey. You want me to still answer the question? Is that okay?
This is good
Sorry.
knowledge for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I do is, when I meet with a buyer and we're talking about, you know, putting in offers and what can happen, excuse me, I let them know that if we go look at a property and put an offer in over the weekend, we can be bumped even though the offer is accepted by the seller, okay, because of the attorney approval, okay? So you go look at a property on a Friday, your people want to make an offers, you know, on Saturday, whatnot, it can get accepted. The buyers can still come through all Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, Sunday, look at the property. And if they decide to write up an offer, the seller can accept that other offer, because when my signed contract goes to the attorney can disapprove my offer and accept the other offer. So an attorney can disapprove an offer for
Okay.
any reason, for no reason whatsoever. Okay.
Mhm.
So setting the expectation with the buyer that if we're looking at a property, you know, over the weekend, this is all the stuff that can happen to it. Now, they did switch, like Kim was saying, that it's a 3-day minimum attorney approval, which is opening up all this, all these scenarios to happen to a buyer to get bumped. Now, I still strike out the 3 days and put 1.
Mm.
And as long as my buyer initials it and the seller initials it, it's binding.
Hmm.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be the 3 days. You can strike out anything in that contract that you want and make it whatever is best for your buyer or seller. So I strike out the 3 days and still put 1 day.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as the buyer and seller both initial and they're fine with it, we're good to go.
Rick, did you have an escalation clause in there too? And it was just that the other offer was just so much higher?
So it was listed at 279.9. We went in at 283 with an escalation clause up to 292.
Holy crap.
They accepted our 283. No other offer came in. They accepted our 282. Then, that was Friday evening.
Mm-hmm.
Good to go. Met the buyers, picked up the deposit check. Rick, make sure you send this out to the attorneys. Is it at the attorneys yet? Yep, just send it out. Here's receipt, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That afternoon, I get a phone call. We got another offer. Okay, well, you accepted ours. And I, just knowing the game, I knew it was happening. And then she's like, you have to exercise your escalation clause up to 292 number. Called up the buyers. They were fine with doing that. Sunday, late morning, early afternoon, I get a phone call. You have to exercise your first right of refusal. Someone came in higher. I think it was only $500. But they had 20% down, and there was no engineer's inspection. So my buyers they don't have 20% down. They had 5, which normally 5% conventional, you're pretty good. But so they couldn't do 20%, and to waive an engineer's inspection, they didn't feel comfortable in doing that. So we lost the first right of refusal. So we got bumped twice over the weekend.
Wow.
It's terrible. And then the attorney on the buyers or on the seller side, because my contract was already at the attorney's office, they approved my contract. But an attorney, it's New York State, they can do whatever the hell they want to do. They were like, oh, I rescind the approval letter.
Right.
And we
Whoops.
disapproved the contract. Okay, well, whatever. So absolutely terrible. But I'm telling you right now, setting that expectation with the buyer on what could possibly happen over the weekend lessened the blow totally. So, you can't turn over every stone, like I said, but some of those things, especially going into the weekend, it really, really helps you out quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But
So let's
I can't wait for it to go back. So
I would agree. I've been outbid 2 days in a row, and we're like 25,000 over asking. We're still getting outbid.
Shoot.
This poor guy, and they're moving here. They're coming. So and his instructions this morning was go back to the agent and say what do they want? We'll give them whatever they want. That his wife loved the house. They want to move. They're going to be here, and they got a cash offer, so we couldn't compete. So let's talk about that for a second on the listing side, on how deals do. Go ahead, Rick. Are you?
One thing I wanted to bring up real quick. So when you're sitting down doing a buyer's consultation, okay, and let's say your buyers are pre-qualified up to $200,000. In this market, you want to let them know that if they're qualified up to 200, they should probably look up to 190, because there's probably going to be a multiple offer situation to where they're going to have to go over asking price So if you look up to 200,000, they're not going to be able to compete against anybody because that's their max. So you always want to see where they are and, you know, do the research beforehand, see what homes have been selling for in the areas that they're looking at, what people are going over at a list price. You can bring that data with you to the buyer's presentation and show them, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, homes that have been listed at 190 in Webster have been selling for 200 to 210. So I think we should, you know, set your search up to a max of 190. Here's the information on why I think we should do that, you know? So that's something that you want to keep in mind. Excuse me.
Exactly. So how many of you have been, I think I probably know the answer. Have any of you been on a buyer's presentation yet?
Not my own though.
Right.
Just listening.
Exactly. You've shadowed someone who's done one. So, I mean, that's part of your launch program. You'll work with your mentors on that, which is really important. So let's talk about Rick's scenario, but we're on the listing side for a second. I have had, and I'll see what Rick thinks, but I've had good success with multiple offer situations accepting a backup offer. And I'm not a fan of bumping. I actually have that conversation with the sellers that, you know, we would like to accept an offer and see it through. I mean, obviously, if somebody comes in with $40,000 and they're paying cash, then, you know, they may change their mind. But it's nice to kind of have an idea, or I find it's nice to have an idea of where my sellers' heads are. Like, are they going to want to just bump? Or, you know, what's their motivation? Are they motivated just to sell with a nice stress-free process, or as stress-free as it can be when you're, you know, selling your home? Or are they looking for as much money as they can get? Like, where are they and what do they need, right? So in my listing presentation, I talk about accepting a backup offer. I also talk about it in my buyer's presentation, that you may not get the house the first time and you may end up being the backup offer. My deal that just closed, that was, you know, crazy, we got bumped in a price point that I didn't think we'd ever get bumped. You know, the house was over 400,000 and we got bumped, and 7 days later, the phone rang and it was the listing agent. And she said, the deal fell through. Are your buyers still interested? We said yes, and we offered them $20,000 less than we'll offer because they just bumped us. They said, yeah, we're done with you. They could have offered us a backup and locked us in at that price, right? But they didn't. So we got it $20,000 less than what it had been on the market for, because now it had sat for 100 days. They just happened to have, you know, somebody that went under contract, and then they bumped us and the other people flaked out, and now they're stuck with no buyer. They went from no buyers to 2 buyers to no buyers in 7 days. So I have found it, you know, and obviously you have to. So Rick, what's your thought on that?
I like the backup offer for the reasons that you said there. I think it, like you're saying, it locks them in. It doesn't make it to the point where now, hey, they just had something fall apart. Now what their situation, you know, are they more desperate at that point to where they're going to get less money, you know, seller wise? I also like it because it gives you a little bit of leverage on the current deal, so that if the current deal, they're doing their engineer's inspection and they come back with, a myriad of things that they want done and credits, you know, you can let that agent know, hey, listen, just to let you know, if you guys want to get a little squirrely with the engineer's release, we have a backup offer. So what happens is that if you're representing the buyer and you do an engineer's inspection, if you go back to the listing agent, even with something as small as turning a screw, you are renegotiating the contract. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if you're renegotiating the contract, the seller can say, nope, I'm not going to do any of that kind of stuff. And if there's an offer sitting in the wings that's $5,000 more, they can go ahead and take that offer. So representing a buyer, you know, you want to let them know that. Say, listen, I'm here to take care of whatever you like, but I want to let you know that if we go back with things that you know, are small items that another buyer may not ask for or whatnot, that we're just trying to get a credit because, you know, you pay $10,000 over asking price for the house, but now you want to ask for $3,000 back in a seller concession for stupid, or for engineers credits for something stupid. I just want to let you know that the seller can take another offer if there is one. And there probably is a backup offer because of the fact that, you know, we were against 6 other offers when your offer was accepted. So that's going to help you when you're representing a buyer to have it go a little bit more smoothly, to where they're not asking for nitpicky stuff. Now, I mean, if the furnace has a cracked heat exchanger, or there's mold in the attic, or there's things of that nature, you have to ask for that kind of stuff because other agents are going to ask for it and it's in the best interest of your client. But, and then if they decide to ask for those little nitpicky things and they get bumped and someone else gets the house, hey, aforementioned was forewarned, and you did your job. So that's why I like, not to go off on a tangent, I apologize, but that's why I do like the backup offers, because it also gives you as the listing agent a little bit more leverage on that buyer to have the engineer go through smoothly.
Sure, go ahead, Jen.
So just as far as technically how a backup offer would work, how long are you allowed to be waiting? Like, is there a set time that they have to like release you from, you know, I mean, is there, like, how does that work?
So I'm going to do a quick plug of a class that's coming up, I think on the 23rd, but don't quote me on it. It's the Buyers series with Karen Hilbert. When
It's
On writing
tomorrow.
offers?
Oh, it's the 23rd already tomorrow? Oh,
Yeah.
it's tomorrow. Okay, so tomorrow.
I took that in person and I have a schedule conflict as far as catching it tomorrow, but maybe I should.
Well, it'll probably be recorded.
It's going to be recorded, yes.
And I'm going to pop on because, you know, I've said this to you guys before, like my second buyer series that I went to, I had met Rick. I knew he had 26 years of business and he was sitting across the aisle from me. And I was like, oh, what are you doing here? He's like, well, you can always improve your skills, right? And he was, you know, trying to figure out how he could be more competitive for his buyers and make sure that he's writing the strongest, best contracts. And so, I mean, this learning never ends. But Karen Hilbert is great. She has great language about a backup offer. Chris Whitus has added it to Transaction Desk in clauses that it will drop it into your contract for you. So it's all written and you just have to kind of fill in the dates. It's normally about 14 days-ish, sometimes a little bit longer depending on the contingencies on the other side. So it's really just based on non-performance of the other offer. So let's talk about my transaction that we thought was going to fall apart at closing, right? So my sellers are obviously, they're worried about losing the other house that they bought. It's their dream home and there's a lot of emotion. So I went back to the backup offer, which had expired, and just said, you know, don't get your buyer's hopes up, but it could happen. Are they still interested or have they found a home? And he goes, well, let me talk to them. So they came the next morning and they said, we will honor the price that we gave you originally, which was great. They didn't have to do that, right? And so having that conversation, I said, well, we can't do anything till everything falls apart. And we had a date that we'd reconvene and talk. But to be able to have that conversation, that we had a verbal commitment from their backup offer that they still were interested if something happened, took so much pressure off of my seller. And it also allowed me to talk to the listing agent on the other side, because now I'm representing them as buyers, to say, by the way, if this falls apart, this is the backup plan. Please talk to your clients and make sure it's going to be okay before I go through all of this extra work to keep getting them in. And we got verbal back from them, like, yes, absolutely, we want to close, everything's fine. So, you know, again, it all goes back to what we talked about in the beginning, that communication is key. Rick, do you copy everyone into your, like when you submit your contracts and stuff to the attorney, do you copy like listing agent and everybody in one email, or do you send everything separately?
I typically copy everybody in, unless there's something that, I have to talk to our attorney about, then I'll just send it to them separately. But
Okay.
typically I copy everybody in, yes.
So from a listing standpoint, when you're on the buyer side, it's your job, I guess you would say, or your responsibility to send the final contract to the attorneys. And when you have a listing and you're in the dark and you're constantly having to follow up, like, hey, did the attorneys get that, updated closing date? Did the attorneys get that we're doing a home warranty? You're doing a lot of extra work, and you're also wasting the other agent's time. So I have found it really, I get a lot of compliments when, everything's signed off and I send it off and notify all the parties that everything's, this is the update. It's just, the seller knows that it's been done, it's been done, you've crossed your I's, dotted your I's, crossed your T's, and you're ready to go, instead of having to chase each other. Because, our time is valuable. So, we have to find ways not to waste time. And the better the transaction goes, the more likely that agent's going to want to work with you in the future. And I have met only one agent that I honestly say that it was such a struggle that I don't know if I would want to do a deal with that person again. So if it was a multiple offer situation and maybe there was only $1,000 or $2,000 difference, I might say to my seller, I've worked with this agent, I've worked with that agent. If I had to choose, it would be that agent, just because you want a nice, easy process, right? And I work really well with that person. You don't know down the road where your actions may, affect a client.
Yeah, that's a
So,
really good point, Jeffrey. I'm sorry.
Go
You
ahead.
guys
No,
hear
that's
me? Okay. So, having good communication, doing business the right way. Rochester's a small community. You're going to come across agents multiple times. If they've had a good transaction with you, like Jeffrey's saying, that, if it's your offer and all terms, conditions, and everything else is the same, and they know that they've worked with you before, that's going to give you a leg up over the competition and ultimately help out your buyers. So it makes, it's very important. Very important. That was a good point, Jeffrey.
So going, kind of feeding off that, one of the things that I like to do is, we have to notify the listing agent when you're on the buying side that the seller has officially closed with the attorney, so that they can officially mark the property sold and for the amount and put your number in so that you get credit in your GRA or stats, right? So instead of just sending a text, I always call them and say, hey, thanks for a great transaction. We closed, we're all set. So you can go ahead and mark it sold. And I'll say, have you ordered the sign to be removed? Because sometimes that gets forgotten, it's easy to forget to have your sign taken down. I just did it the other day. If I hadn't had my checklist, I would have completely forgot about it. But I say, is there anything, this was a great transaction, I loved working with you. Is there anything that I could do better on the next transaction? And I've gotten some really interesting feedback. Some of these agents that I've done deals with have been in the business for 35 years. They've seen a lot. And, they normally will give me like, no, I really liked this. But hey, sometimes this has worked for me in the past, and it might help you. So again, you're kind of building that relationship. As we build these relationships, you don't know, just because you're a new agent doesn't mean that a 35-year agent that just likes you and likes working with you might not join Keller Williams under your downline if something changes in their situation. So, there's a big picture to look at when you have to represent your client, you have to do what's best for them. But, your reputation is important, especially, when I look at I want to do this for time. And I want people to know me for, being a real fair and upfront agent. I don't like to play games, and I try to, practice what I preach, so to speak. So we have about 10 minutes-ish left, and we didn't really let you mastermind much, but it's a little hard. I think this mastermind will morph into something a little different once you guys are actually able to kind of get your feet wet. Right now it's a little hard because you're sitting at home, right? So there's not a lot of new experiences for you guys to talk through. But what questions can we answer that you guys have right now?
I've been asking them all along. I don't.
You've been on a lot of my calls, so.
I know I tend to talk more than anybody else. I think it's a problem.
No, that's not a problem.
No, this is very helpful. You know, just some of these experiences that you know you're talking through.
Right.
It's helpful.
Personally, I think that this sort of stuff you might not take the time or make the time to hear and listen to and whatever when you're in the thick of business again, as we, you know what I mean, as the, what did Lisa call it, the hose unkinks and, you know, whatever. So I think the more you hear and the more you know, I think the better off you guys are going to be. Like, I don't know.
So like you just made a good point that like this type of thing is happening more, I think, because of the current circumstances. Like these forums for discussion, I don't know that all these were available so plentifully before. So when things open back up, will we still be able to have this kind of collaboration?
Well,
So
I think what leadership has talked about, like, so we've mentioned, you know, real estate has morphed, right? We're now into, you know, the next phase of technology and how, you know, we're all kind of wondering what the new normal is going to be like. If you expect to go back to the office and do things exactly the way you did before, you're probably mistaken. And I don't mean that as a bad thing. I mean, like, even from a leadership perspective, we got on at 1 o'clock today. We meet every day at 1 o'clock to talk about, you know, what's happening out there. But one of the things we did was the calendar for May. And we had all 3 market centers on there. And we literally filled the calendar, you guys, for things happening in May. And in the past, that would have been something that would have taken Abby and Lisa and Chuck and, you know, Jessica forever to do because of all the back and forth, and Rick as well. So we talked about continuing to do something like this when we're allowed to go back to the office. The other thing we've talked about is continuing to do some of our series the same way. Like, why not open up some of these things to Zoom and make it so that if you can't attend the class, then maybe it is being recorded while we're in the learning center or whatever. So, you know, so that you can, you know, catch the link, zoom in, you know, whatever, like the coffee talk series that's happening tomorrow. I expect you all to be on at 9 o'clock. We talked about, you know, maybe making it a Zoom call and keeping it a Zoom call because maybe the capper can't be in at 9 o'clock. Do you know what I mean? To be there. So I think we're really going to take a look at how things have been done in the past to see what we can do to make things better for you guys in the future. I don't know, Rick, do you have something to add, or Jeffrey?
So before the whole COVID thing happened, you know, we, Kim and Rick and Bob Ruland and Chris Whitus, we meet kind of regularly to talk about new agent stuff and recruitment. And this new agent mastermind came from one of those meetings. And we have I picked every date between now and the end of 2020, and it's already on the calendar. So it's always around the 3rd Wednesday of the month unless it conflicted with something else. And Lisa has a kind of basic framework of the classes that they know repeat, like Ignite, and when they were going to be for the rest of the year. So I built around those already known. So I have already committed to leading this mastermind for at least the rest of 2020. And when we come back from quarantine, we'll figure out what is going to work best for you guys, because I would have loved to be able to sit in and get some of this knowledge. I mean, I had a great mentor. She was fantastic, and I couldn't have done my shameless plug, $1.5 million in 9 months. Like, I just couldn't have done it without her. So, and without Ignite and everyone else helping me and guiding me and supporting me at Keller Williams. So I am fully committed to doing whatever you guys need as new agents for the rest of the year. And
beyond.
And beyond. But I mean, like, we have the date set for 2020. So, we don't know after doing this a year, maybe this mastermind will morph into something just a little for 2021. It's just gonna figure out what are you gonna get the biggest bang for your buck. Thanks for the clap, Jen. It's all about you guys and making sure, because I'm in business with you too, right? We're all in business together. So whatever we can do to help, get you guys off the ground that's what I'm committed to in 2020. And it was on my growth plan. I said I was going to teach one class in 2020, and I've taught
a lot.
5, I think. So, and even jumped in on Ignite 8 the other day when Laura Lamana got stuck, and
I heard about that.
Ummed my way through it. So you have my support. So
so keep in mind too, when this is given, it's always going to be something different. So just because you're here today, next month, there's going to be something different. So keep on coming back to it. My only conflict, Jeffrey, is we talked about Wednesdays going forward. It'll be a little difficult for me. I got my golf league there, and that's the one thing that I don't sacrifice for nothing. But
I came up with another call. You get a lot of important business from these golf events.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I tell myself. So it's always going to morph into something. And Lisa and Lori, I also wanted to reach out to you guys. Right now, pairing you with a mentor is a little difficult because of kind of what's happening. But I'm going to reach out to you guys and set up a call and, kind of see where you're at with things. And I will fill in personally with you until, we get through this pause and, get you on the track doing the right activities and things like that. So I'll reach out to you tomorrow and go through some different stuff. So I'll be the fill-in for you. And then, we'll get you paired up with a mentor. But I just want to make sure that you guys are taken care of and know that you have the support. If you need anything, you can always reach out to me. Okay.
And the other thing that
I've already reached out to Rick, and he's been great in getting back and helping out. So
the other thing that I'm going to say is that if any of you feel like you would like to see a class or would like to learn about something, or maybe you're thinking of a way that maybe you could better be supported, whatever the case may be, shoot me a text, shoot me an email, let me know, and I'll do whatever I can to make that happen for you guys. So, we listen to a lot of what you guys say and your requests, and while we can't fill them all, we certainly do try. So if there's something that you feel like we're missing, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know.
There's another mastermind on the calendar, which is the Solo Agent Mastermind. And for those of you who aren't on a team, it's either led by Lisa. And sometimes another agent. Sometimes they'll do it on the west side with another agent every once in a while, but most of the time it's Lisa. And that's for any single agent. So those are really beneficial because you get in a room with, new agents, 1-year agents, 5-year agents, 20-year agents, and you start really talking about, hey, how could we work through this? You get some really great ideas, and you haven't, again, time is valuable. So it might spark something that you wouldn't even have thought of that's going to help your business. So really, I found it really beneficial, and Lisa does a great job. Hey, Rick, can you call them on Friday? Lori says that there's a full schedule of classes tomorrow, which is true. It's a pretty packed day tomorrow.
Yeah, I sent a a chat back saying, feel
Okay.
free to text me when she's available.
Okay, perfect. So,
Lisa, are you okay with me reaching out to you tomorrow?
Yes, I'm good.
okay.
Okay.
Hi,
All
there.
right. Yep. So I'll reach out to you.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Hi.
Yep.
I was going to attend the buyer series, the 6 personal perspectives, and then also the pivot like a boss. I was going to do all 3 of those tomorrow. So,
I'll
Okay.
see you there.
okay. I just didn't want you guys to think I wasn't responding to you or anything like that. I just want to let you know what the schedule was. So I was like, oh.
No,
No.
no.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine.
It is a
There's
pretty
some on
busy day
Friday as
tomorrow.
well. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said it is a pretty busy day tomorrow.
And then also I had for Friday too, the command designs, the Ignite for the negotiate the deal.
Yep. Yep.
Who's teaching negotiate the deal?
Is
Alicia Guntram.
I was gonna say Karen, but Karen I think is buyer series.
Yeah.
Yeah, Karen Fire says, I don't think
Yeah.
I've taken a class with Alicia yet.
No, yeah, I reached out to some of the launch partners yesterday, and she was first to grab it. So she's excited to teach it. So
Great. Make
Oh,
sure
wow.
though, guys,
You'll see me there because I always love a new teacher.
make sure you guys circle back around with these Ignite classes though too, like once we're off this pause, because like Jeffrey was saying, you'll get a lot out of it the first time around, but you'll get more out of it as you hit each stage of your career. So you'll walk away with different tidbits of information that you're going to find useful. So please revisit them as many times as you can.
Yeah, it's my 3rd time, even though I've taught a couple of Ignites. You've seen me on most of the calls. That's my third or 4th time taking Ignite. And every time I've got a pad full of notes of ways I want to change things up, or now that, because when you're a new agent, there's so much information. You just can't do it all perfectly the first time, right?
Yep.
So now there's things that I've kind of mastered that I like the way it's going, and it's saved some stress on me and the client. So I know that that's a solid paragraph that I'm going to keep. And now I'm thinking of other things that I have missed that maybe I learned in one of these classes, but it just to the top of the pile, just in my memory. So that's why I keep taking them, because I just want to keep going. So.
And real quick, myself and Kaylee, we're going to put together a really awesome open house class, like a 2-hour
Cool.
legit open house class. So we've been working on that a little bit. It's one of those things that kind of you have to be in person, because we're going to do a lot of scripting and role playing and things like that. So yeah, so we're excited to put that on. So we'll get it going. A lot of good stuff, and the schedule that's coming out, like Kim was saying today, it's pretty robust, even though we're paused. But this whole Zoom meeting is definitely going to change the way that we do business and the way that we're able to educate. So it's pretty exciting. There's a lot of good that's going to come out of this.
I love it.
Okay. So I have one last.
Cool. Well, thank you so much.
I have one last question before we go. Has everyone ordered their business cards?
I'm secretly getting pictures taken tomorrow, so I'm waiting for that to be done.
So
That's on my list of things to do.
Okay,
Yes.
so I'm going to give you a challenge that when I see you next month on the mastermind, I want to see a card.
Ron and Lisa.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think that Chris had been setting up templates in Command. So ask her about that. You might have something in there already, ready and waiting for you. If there's something else that you would like to see, please reach out to me. I can certainly help you navigate. There's different websites that you can use. I like Daughtry's print a lot. They have a ton of designs, so let me know.
Thank you.
Chris did give us
Also-
that design. I just haven't had it printed
Okay, cool.
anywhere.
Okay.
There's also an app that I use to do I did a new logo branding for myself. It's called Fiverr, Fiverr. And for $15, I was able to have someone do do my logo for me. I can actually show you what it looks like real quick. And this cost me $15, and I had four edits to it. So if you're looking to get your business card done, and she also did a business card for me if I wanted it, things like that. $15, I had it all taken care of, and we were able to do it remotely. I'm sorry? That's the logo that she did for me.
That's awesome. Rick, is it Fiverr?
Yep, Fiverr.
Okay.
And you can go on there and, look at a couple different people that are doing things. Some are more expensive than others, but there's a lot of people that specialize in the real estate. And I gave her an idea of what I wanted, and yeah, she knocked it out of. I mean, $15. I was able to take care of it all remotely and not have to meet with anybody. I'm sorry?
Do you get a PNG file? So in other words, can you take that, and if you wanted to use it on a sign, is the quality good enough that you'd be able to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. It was PNG, PDF. There was a couple other ones, TIFF, all different kinds of different files that she had sent over to me.
Nice.
Wow.
Good job. I love it.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. $15. I mean, how can you, and I don't know. I think they're overseas, some of them that you're working with. So like I would give her the information. They were very prompt, and then it would take like 24 hours for her to send me a proof, and then I would look through it, change what I wanted, and then very, very simple and easy. So
Cool.
check it out. Fiverr. It's an app also. So
Awesome.
Kim,
Yeah.
after we get off, do you have a minute if I wanted to just pick your brain on this whole headshot situation?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Do you want to call me?
Yeah, if that's okay.
That's fine. Yeah.
I think I still have your number.
It's 610
Mm-hmm.
360 8876.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everyone. And as I always wrap up anything I'm doing, if you have any feedback of things I can do better, send me an email.
I admire your
very
willingness
cool.
that you at 9 months in are willing to share what you've learned already and step up and teach. I think it's great. And I do think that what you're doing is helpful.
Yep.
Well,
Thanks, Jeffrey.
I appreciate that. I remember being scared. Trust me, I was there. And there's still not days I walk down and look at Sean and go, why are people buying houses with me? I have no idea. So I've got to be doing something right. So
Also encouraging
absolutely.
that 9 months in, you've gotten enough experience and enough activity that you're in a position to teach. That alone is encouraging to somebody new.
yeah.
Can I just
Well,
tell
it can be
you,
done.
Lori looks like she wants to say something.
Yeah.
You're going like this.
I try to read my planner here and then read that as well, and then go through my notebook. So I have in my planner, are we not going to do, is this basically the check-in I have with you that I would normally do, I guess, the check-in with Kim?
Oh, okay. So the check-in with me is at 3 o'clock on Wednesdays.
Okay, for some reason mine is saying 7 p.m. I don't know why. It's at a time change, so it changed my whole calendar from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. So I guess I just got confused maybe. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. It's every day. Every Wednesday at 3 p.m.
Right before
And-
leaving.
And we meet briefly. It's pretty much, go ahead.
I got a reminder on my phone today again about it. So that's weird.
Okay. I'll go in and check the settings on that.
Okay.
Basically, it's really informal. We pretty much just, if there's any updates that I have from leadership with regards to what's going on in the field, I try to provide that. Any tidbits that I get from any of the other classes that I'm in, I try to provide that. And pretty much I just check in and try to hold you accountable, right, Ron? And find out what you're doing and you know, give you some suggestions for things to work on to keep busy, you know.
So that's only every Wednesday at 3 p.m.
Every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Yes. 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 And I forget what I was going to say. Shoot. I totally lost it. Oh, getting back to Jeffrey and you guys saying how awesome it was that he's doing all this and he's only 9 months in. Can I tell y'all, he did it the right way. He got involved. And while we always say, you know, yes, you can work from home and da 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 da, there are some people that are awesome at that. But being brand new, I feel personally that you learn more from being around. Even if, you know, I'm not saying you have to have an office space. I'm saying come in, use the tech space that's there, drop your stuff and just sit and just, whether you're working on your database or whatever the case may be, you're around people, you're hearing people talk, you're hearing conversations that are going on, and you're learning that way. And I also tend to believe that Jeffrey's gotten quite a bit of leads and stuff from people that, you know, needed somebody last minute to do an open house, and they popped around the corner and he happened to be there. So people get to know you, and people might put you to the front of the line with regards to handing out open houses and things like that. So please, you know, get to know people. I mean, we're really a big community and everybody's willing to help. So.
Yeah. Thanks, Kim.
You're welcome.
Okay, everybody. Well, have a good night. I'm going to go make dinner now because I don't have helpers like Ron does.
Right.
Yeah, normally I'm cooking every night, so
Sure.
this is my night off.
Right.
Everybody likes everybody likes a night. Oh, Lori.
All you need is a glass of wine.
Oh, you're on mute, Lori. We can't hear you.
I actually went and got a couple bottles the other night, so I might crack one open tonight, actually.
Yes.
Perfect.
As we all go into rehab after this.
Right.
Well, have
All right.
All right, cool.
have a good
Thanks,
night. I'll see
guys.
you,
All right.
See you later.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.